Strength Solutions Podcast. We're on Apple and Spotify. You can rate and review us. Check us out on YouTube. Smash that like button and hit a little subscribe on the side. You know, we'll be your side chick. Then, if you're looking for a website, it's strengthsolutionspodcast.com. If you're looking for a place for free blogs, free guides, and programs on there for purchase, check us out. Then, if you want to email us future questions for fitness, it's strengthsolutionspodcast@gmail.com. Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, Strength Solutions Podcast. And on Instagram, I'm Strength Solutions Edwin.
I'm Strength Solutions Nathaniel.
Okay, guys, we got Nathaniel's blood work back, and the results are in.
Yeah.
And we found out he is not a man.
Yeah,
so I should be saying she, Nathaniel.
So you are not the father. That's Maury. I did get my lab work back in. Finally, there was a little bit of a mix-up on the first one where I had to go back and get it done again. So they didn't get enough blood for whatever reason. So.
Is it because you have a small penis?
Yeah. They were like, it was too little. You need to do it again.
It's called a micro.
And so, I had to go back in, but this time it was fine. So I got it all done. They do a complete blood count, right? That's the first part. Then they do a metabolic panel, a lipid panel, and then they do all of your testosterone and hormone parts. Mm-hmm. So overall, everything looked pretty good. A lot of it was kind of in line with the way it was last time. Now, this time here, looking at it, so one thing with testosterone, just to like talk about to everybody, that I feel like I didn't know this, but it makes sense, is that whenever you take testosterone, you become more anabolic, right? So you build a lot more. One of the things that you build more of is red blood cells. Mm-hmm. And so there's a tendency sometimes to build too much red blood cells and create sort of more viscosity in the blood. And that can become a problem in terms of like hydration, your heart working a lot harder and things like that to pump blood, etc. If you're normally pretty hydrated, then you don't have to worry about that as often. But sometimes you build so much that you actually have to go donate blood.
So, by the way, guys, if y'all want to know, I hydrate Nathaniel with my piss.
Yeah. Hey, according to one of our friends, he said anything that's 0 calorie counts towards your water. So all the Coke Zero I drink, it matters. I took that one to heart, dude. I was like, okay. Yeah, so he said it.
Yeah. So when Camille's there, she just pisses in his mouth. 0 calories.
So a little bit of ice is refreshing on a summer day. A little bit of that tang,
especially when it's yellow.
Yeah, it's like a nice beer, So I got mine back. My white blood count or blood cells is good. It's actually on the higher end. If I
was a white blood cell in you, I'd be trying to fight you anyways.
Yeah. So that was on good. My red blood cell count was actually a little bit high. So it was on the higher end of the normal range. Mm-hmm. So she said that she wasn't too concerned. If anything,
but was it like high, like, you know how like there's range? Right. You're not outside that range?
I'm like just a little bit outside of that range.
Okay.
And so
what's the numbers? Give me the numbers.
So it goes from 4.14 to 5.8. Okay. I'm at 6. So I'm a little bit on the end.
Quit bragging about your 6 inches.
Yeah. Oh, what is it? Is it small or is it 6 inches?
I don't know. Let me ask Camille.
Or is 6 inches small? Oh. Everybody's all insecure now. So mine's a little bit higher now. She said that based on, lifestyle, things like that this kind of makes sense. That I'm probably just doing well, being able to carry a lot of oxygen, things like that. It's not to that point where it's super viscosity. There's not a lot of viscosity.
Does she talk about what symptoms you may have if it becomes too much?
So you'll get like headaches, maybe feel dizzy, hard to catch your breath because you can't oxygenate that much cells.
Okay.
Maybe feeling really dehydrated, stuff like that. So those are some of the things that she told me. But if I'm not enduring any of those things, then I should be fine. Oh, okay. And I haven't felt sick in a long time in any way. Like I don't even get headaches or nothing like that unless I haven't had caffeine because I'm addicted, but that's different. Anyway, so she said that was good. Now there was these other values. I cannot remember what they stand for, but it's MCH and MCHC. And I believe that's like, the way that she was explaining it is the color of the blood. Okay. And so she was saying that mine might be a little bit more, I think she said, it was either, I know this is going to sound really dumb, but it's either paler or darker because of the amount of blood cells I have. So I'm going to go with, I think she said that it would be darker.
That's what I would think so too, because if there's more red blood cells.
Right. And they're dying often. And so one of the things that she did say with that is that if you're having that turnover of blood cells and it's working a lot, then it does put a little bit more strain on the liver. And so that was one of the main things that she said. And so in this, there's
Before
actually,
you
go ahead.
Did she say someone who paints their nails affects their testosterone?
Surprisingly, no. Yeah,
oh, it
yeah.
does. Okay.
It does put more microplastics though. And it also
it's already in your balls. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll paint my balls too. So moving on from there, right? So talking about that in terms of like the liver working harder and stuff like that. So in the metabolic panel that goes over your glucose, creatinine, BUN, stuff like that. And BUN, I believe, is a liver enzyme level. And so mine was within normal range. In fact, it's a little bit on the lower end. So she was saying, or I'm sorry, it's actually like right in the middle. I was looking at the wrong one. That since that is looking normally, that even though I have a higher red blood cell count, it should be fine.
Oh, okay.
Since my liver seems to not be overworked or anything. Now she was like, if it was on that higher end, then I might say, hey, every 6 months you need to go donate. And that's actually all you really need to do is every 6 months go donate. I'm assuming depending on the severity,
or
right?
drop your
you could drop your
right?
yeah, but then it comes into like, okay, well, what are your levels of testosterone?
You're at a high amount.
Yeah, I'm at a high amount. So I could drop, right? Yeah. But for her, she always says that it goes by symptomatic. So if you feel fine, then it's probably fine,
because the goal is to optimize you.
The goal is to optimize, right? So my glucose level, which I was actually happy about, because I fasted again, and so mine was at 74, and the ranges are from 70 to 99. My family has a history of diabetes, things like that, so that was I was happy to see that because I felt confident, that I was like doing the right things. And then so that was the metabolic panel. So moving on from there, it goes into your sodium, potassium, chloride, carbon dioxide, things like that too. So my carbon dioxide level was actually a little bit low, which is odd. And she told me that she actually sees that in a lot of her athletes or people who are very consistent with lifting and things like that. The carbon dioxide level is a little bit lower
because you're producing more oxygen, because you're in a healthier state,
and you're able to like have that gas transfer better. You're more efficient at it, right? So your carbon dioxide level runs a little bit lower. Again, she said, depending on how you feel, it's fine. Again, it's not super out of that range, but those are one of the other ones that was on it highlighted in red, right? And then moving on to the lipid panel. So this is one that I've been trying to work on my own, just in general. It goes over your total cholesterol, triglycerides, HDL cholesterol, right? LDL, VDL, which is a little bit more specific, and then some other things like that. So my cholesterol the last time was a little bit high. She told me, things that you can do is like increasing your fiber intake, stuff like that, just eating better, healthier, things like that. My cholesterol this time came back high again, about the same level as it was last time, regardless of me implementing some of those things. So in her opinion, she was telling me that she thinks it's more of a genetic predisposition. There's also a lot of conflicting statements and just kind of a conversation around cholesterol in the body and what it actually does, and also in taking cholesterol and how it actually affects those levels.
Well, even then, there's the island of Crete, and I think it's Iceland, who have high cholesterol levels, yet no incidence of heart attacks. So there's cholesterol does more than what we think. And for those people who say it just is bad if it's high, they are probably wrong. And then even then, there was a study done where 40% of statins, I believe, were just not necessary in society.
They just like weren't doing anything.
Yeah, like it wasn't preventing any coronary
cholesterol
diseases.
is a big part of hormone production, things like that too. So I would imagine that if I'm
like
on
that's
testosterone,
why egg yolk might help you.
Right. Yeah. That I'm probably going to produce a little bit more cholesterol. But also, again, in my family, metabolic conditions just run rampant. And so it may be just one of those things that I keep an eye on. It came back consistent with the last range, so it's not like it's going up. Right. So she was saying the same thing, that I'm probably not at a higher risk for any sort of, heart conditions, things like that. My LDL was also a little bit high too. So I'm still going to make those attempts and trying to like
A little bit more fiber, maybe a little bit less red meat.
Yeah, yep. I do eat a lot of eggs, things like that, right? So maybe
eggs have shown that it doesn't really correlate.
Right, and like I was saying earlier, I remember, I'll never forget when I was in school, I was doing a nutrition class, and the professor was a dietitian and stuff like that. We had to do this one project where we were all in the computer lab, and we had to like use this software to type in all of our stuff. And again, it said that based on my diet, that my cholesterol is probably going to be kind of high. And I remember my teacher walked by at the same time that I had like done it, and she was like, we don't really know what happens when you ingest cholesterol. Like we don't know what that is yet.
Think about how many people we fucked up by not eating eggs.
Yeah, right.
Because we said it was bad because of cholesterol.
You probably get worse stuff from not eating things like that, right? Than eating.
I mean, they're selling bugs now, right? So you must
yeah,
bugs.
We just saw that, right? Yeah. And so those are some of the things that I probably work on. And then let me get over to my testosterone panel here.
This guy taking forever.
Sorry, I'm a boomer right now.
He needs his reading glasses.
Yeah. And
if you see him on the camera,
right.
He's all.
So here we are. So the testosterone panel, or the hormone panel for at least men, goes over your PSA, your prostate specific antigen.
That's the one I'm interested for you.
Yeah, my TSH, estradiol, and testosterone. So PSA, in the past, my PSA level has always been high, my prostate-specific antigen. And there's a lot of things that you're supposed to do before you go and take your test. So you're
not masturbate, right?
Yep, you're not supposed to have any sexual activity. You're not supposed to.
I don't remember if I had sex before my blood panel.
You're not supposed to ride a bike. You're not supposed to do anything that'll agitate the prostate. And so mine has always been.
There's no prostate play for anybody.
No straps.
Poor Camille.
Boo.
Camille's all about that strap home.
And so in the past, mine has always been really high. And they've always kind of called me and been like, hey, your PSA is on like a higher level. It's never been outside of the range, but it's always been consistently in a high level, where they were not really concerned, but it was something that they were like, we should take a look at this because it could be a precursor or a just a sign that maybe prostate cancer, right, is one of those things. And so my PSA actually came back the lowest I've seen it at 2.9. The ranges are from 0 to 4.0. So I was actually within range this time, which actually made me feel pretty good because I was like, I'm going to try and do this right.
So what do they think may have led to you?
So one of the things, so when I initially talked to Dawn, when I was first getting on all of this stuff, is I had told her about my PSA being high and how testosterone can kind of raise that sometimes, especially if you're already in a higher range. And she asked me if I had ever had surgery on any of my reproductive organs. And I had, when I was younger, I had something called a hydrocele, which is where fluid gets stuck in one of your testicles. And she said that if you had ever had any sort of surgery anywhere, that your PSA for essentially like the rest of your life is always going to be high. And I was like, oh, I would have liked to have known that, that 2 years ago.
Imagine if you would have had another doctor, health practitioner tell you, oh, we have to get this down, don't do this, and it makes you more in an unhealthy state.
Or they're like, now we got to go get you checked out for cancer, and I spend a whole bunch of money to find out that nothing's wrong, and so it was really, really good to hear that, and it also made a lot of sense and stuff. So I was happy to see that it was down and that I had done everything right. Now my testosterone levels, so the normative values that they have here are from 264 to 916. Those are the levels. So mine was at 1091, so 1091. I was a little bit above that, high level. Again, she talks a lot about your symptomatic, how do you feel, stuff like that. Everybody knows the symptoms of testosterone abuse, right? Getting really pissed off, or an unnatural level of that. Yes. All the things that you would imagine.
I actually feel like your face is clear.
Yeah, actually, I feel like it is too. And so
that semen on your face must be working.
It's unnatural, dude. It's natural, yeah. And so
it's all protein, baby.
So again, she asked me, how are you feeling? Do you feel whatever? And I was like, honestly, I feel like my strength gains have been pretty, normal with what I would expect with the way that I'm lifting, with the way that I'm eating, stuff like that. My body fat percentage has dropped like very, very, very slow over time. My weight has stayed the same. My muscle mass is increasing pretty consistently and slowly too. So I'm not really seeing any I guess like side effects, right, of testosterone abuse or high levels or whatever it is. Now, with a high testosterone level, your estrogen is also going to rise there too. So my estrogen level was a little bit, or actually I would say it's kind of high. It was a little bit above that. So again, she asked me the same questions. And so this is for all the guys that are on it, right, and stuff. So it's like, if your nipples are super sensitive, or if they're itchy, or if you're overly emotional, right, you're swinging, like you're super sad one moment and then you're happy the next, or you watch something and it's just killing you inside or whatever, like those are signs that your estrogen is a little bit high. Now, in the past, my estrogen has been high too, so I was taking a little bit more of something called anastrozole, which is an estrogen suppressant. I'll take an extra like 0.5. It's a super, super low dose just to keep that in check. And she said that if I ever do get any symptoms, or if I ever do feel off or whatever, just to add in an extra one of the capsules that I take on the second day that I do my dosing. And that should kind of like regulate it a little bit. But for the most part, I felt pretty good. These are kind of consistent with the same levels that I was getting previously. So everything's been kind of on par. I feel really, really good. I feel a lot better than I used to. She asked me questions like, have I been feeling more depressed? Have I had less energy, more tired? I think if I've had any of those things, it's either situational or I didn't sleep enough or whatever it is. There's a reason why, right? It's not based on the testosterone, or I'm not taking enough or something. So pretty good, man. I was happy with my results. I think the main things that I'll probably do is kind of look into the cholesterol thing a little bit more. Maybe adding a little bit more cardio stuff to my workouts. Keeping an eye on my blood cell count if I do need to go donate. She made a good point. She was like, it's never going to hurt you. You can always just go do it. It's a great thing. People always need more blood, right? So if I really, really want to, I can go do that. And just keep an eye on stuff. Continuing doing what I'm doing. Essentially, it'll just be business as usual. I'll probably do another scan or another lab test in about 6 months. And then if it's consistent again, she spoke on maybe going to 9 months, not really needing to continuously do it so often. But we'll see. I like going to get my lab work done. I'd go every 3 months if I could, just to kind of keep track and stuff like that. But that's the way it is, man. Those are the results there.
That's the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah. And so that's how I've been doing, and I feel pretty good. I've been really, really happy with my whole results on all of this stuff. The way that it's gone, I don't regret it at all. I think if anybody's struggling, it's worth at least getting checked.
But I also want to say you worked on your lifestyle before trying to be on this.
I did. I really, really did, and I work out all the time. I've tried to eat better. I've added in fiber. I work out all the time. I'll try and work on my sleep or go to therapy to manage stress and anxiety levels. Like, I've done it all, and I think that it's important to do that stuff first before going to go get checked, because I think the thing is that a lot of the times people will go get checked and be like, oh, this is the reason I feel this way. When there's a million other things that maybe you could be doing or that you're not doing now.
But I will say this, testosterone is a happy hormone.
Yeah.
And if it kickstarts you, it can make a difference as well, right?
Right. Yeah. It's one of those things that we say too. Like if you take medicine for a mental health issue and that helps you kind of get your shit together, I think it's a tool, right?
It's a tool.
So
right?
It's a
Just
tool.
don't be dependent on it.
Right.
Speaking of anabolic, we're to be talking about bulking, and everybody should be bulking,
Oh.
And whether you think you're overweight or you're not overweight or you're underweight, everybody should be bulking at some point in their lives. And how would we use it, right?
Yeah.
So typically I tell my clients early on who want to lose weight, our goal is not to lose weight. Our goal is to bulk and build muscle, and they get like scared.
Yeah.
And what I explain to them is our goal is to stay the same weight, but build as much muscle as possible while losing fat at the same time. And this is very possible at the early stages of your training.
Right.
If you've been inconsistent for a while, or you stopped training for like a year and now you want to get back into it, this is the time to take advantage of that opportunity to be able to do both.
I was just having a conversation with someone today. I was just telling you about it a little while ago. And we were talking about stuff and just how training is. And, in terms of people who want to lose weight, I think a lot of the times we think they need to work out a certain way. Like we think they need to work out to where they're huffing and puffing. They need to be doing a lot of reps. They need to be doing supersets. They need to be doing super high volume, right? Because of course, the more, out of breath you are and the more, you're sweating, the more weight you're losing, right? That's what people think. And I was telling them, I was like, it doesn't really matter. You can kind of work out however. In fact, I think that if you're going to lose weight, the first thing you should do is actually try and put on as much muscle as possible. Right. And that's probably
to ensure when you do lose weight that you're going to lose muscle. That way you don't look worse.
It gives you like a buffer, right? It gives you a buffer zone. Yeah. And so that at a higher body percent fat, you start seeing those results. And I think in terms of motivation, in terms of just health in general too, that's a good thing to have, right? Is that layer of muscle. And it's funny. I don't know, maybe this isn't the right time to put this story in because maybe there's a better time, but I was talking to my brother and he was telling me that he went to a place the other day to get a body scan. And, of course, these people are like salesy, and they want to talk to him about stuff and his goals and everything. And they were like, so what are your goals, man? And he was telling me that, he told the guy that my goal is I just want to be strong. I just want to keep getting stronger, whatever. And that the dude was literally like confused. Like he was like, what the fuck? Like, you don't want to be super aesthetic. Like you don't want to get a 6-pack. You don't want to do it. And my brother was like, no. And the guy literally couldn't comprehend like,
that's because we've been told our whole lives
that's what you're supposed to do, right? Yeah. And so he said that he went and did the body scan, and that some of the things on there weren't exactly the way that he wanted to see, but like a little bit of body fat increase. But he's been getting a lot stronger, right? He's been like everything in the gym makes sense, and that the guy got the results, and he was like, "Oh man, it's not looking good," like. We should go look at some of the fat burners and stuff. And my brother was like, no, God. I'm not going to do that. It's one of those things, where it's like putting on the muscle is almost like you said, people get scared, right? You hear that and you're like, well, what the fuck are we talking about? I want to lose weight, dude. That's not what I want to do. Yeah. But you got to trust the process.
And I feel like your brother looks better than ever.
That's what I was telling him too. Like, cause when he showed me the results, I was like, bro, I don't know if this is accurate, man. Like, I don't know, maybe you weren't super hydrated or
because it's a bioelectric impedance, right?
Yeah. Or maybe they got the machine kind of tuned a certain way. Yeah. And he did tell me, he was like, I had drank a lot the night before, but I woke up really early that day and was just like pounding water. And I was like, I don't know if that's enough, man, because it just affects your body in a certain way,
that you're just, that's where bioelectric impedance is not that good.
And that's the same thing he said too. He was like, I don't really trust those machines like to a T and stuff. And I was like, you shouldn't, right? It's a good way to gauge and stuff. But yeah, it was just a funny story.
Dang, dude. But there's also other people who want to bulk that have a hard time. So like I had this young woman who's like, I'm trying to gain weight. I don't weigh that much right now. And I was like, you look great and fantastic right now. And if you want to gain muscle, just start with one simple thing. And, you're going to have to be in calorie surplus and make sure your protein's there. And then she was like, how much protein should I get? And I was like, about 1 gram per pound of body weight because you're lean and you're also not heavier. And she's like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Right. And I told her, look, I tell you to hit that goal, but if you hit 0.8, I'm fine with that too.
I'm happy. Right. Yeah. So same thing here. I was just talking to someone, same person, and I was asking them how their progress had been and stuff like that. And one of my questions was, how much protein do you think you're getting a day? And she was like, probably like 50 grams. And I was like, what the? I was like, you better do something about that. Cause they're about 125. And I know what they look like, so I know they're super lean, right? They're very, very lean. There's very little body fat percentage. And I was like, you got to be eating more than that. But they just struggle getting in that type of amount of
Do they
protein.
Struggle? You haven't really got to coach them yet, have you?
I've talked to them literally today for the first time in a long time. Yeah,
they struggle, but they just don't. Maybe they just don't know how.
Yeah,
which, some techniques to make you hungry, like in the morning, right? Let's talk about this stuff next. Perfect transition.
Yeah, let's go.
Is eat oatmeal with a protein in the morning. So if you have a starch in the morning, it's gonna make you hungrier later during the day.
Right.
Where usually they tell you to eat a high fat, high protein diet. You want a high protein, high starch diet in the morning, so that way it'll force you to eat more later on in the day by making you hungrier faster.
You know what's so funny is
that's the complete opposite. Right?
When I was younger, this is like some old school advice. When I was younger, my mom we'd eat like oatmeal in the morning. Or do you know what malto-meal is? No, it's
like a poor person's meal.
It's fucking poor.
I was
shit,
just kidding.
No, it's literally like $1.29, and you can make it for fucking forever.
Really?
It's like hot cereal, so it's almost like grits and like oatmeal type thing. It's really good. It tastes awesome. It's just like.
We have stuff like that, like
bland nutrition stuff. Yeah.
Like that,
And we see it all the time in the morning, and my mom would always be like, if you eat this in the morning, you're going to be really, really hungry later. So just like understand that. And I'd always be like, what the fuck are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. Until later on, I found that out. And I was like, damn, she didn't even know, but she knew.
It's crazy. I think we know a lot of things innate as humans, but science has isolated a lot of things and made it worse over time. Yeah. And people don't listen to themselves. Yeah. And they don't listen to antidote. So I was talking to this pharmacist the other day, and I was like, I think the problem with a lot of doctors who have issues and with patients, one, they don't get enough time. Yeah. Two, they're just prescribing what was on the study when in reality the dosage makes the poison. So we talked about me and the peptides, right? Yeah. And I should be at a lower dose than as I was going up. You know, it was just experiment, right? And dose makes the poison on anything, right? It's me versus ibuprofen versus Oxycontin, right? They have similar things, but one's way dosed heavier, it's stronger. It's, you know, it's going to change the way you do things, you know? So that was one technique, is the starch in the morning. Okay. Another technique is, this is where like it's a little easier to bulk in the sense of like probably getting pastas, different starches that'll make you hungrier, where maybe not a potato. A potato has a little bit filling fiber, right? One of the things that you can hold down
that they mentioned was just a lack of appetite. And trying to kind of like manage that. And they're also not a fan of protein like shakes and stuff. I'm not either. So it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't really know.
But I wonder if she starts eating more protein, but also starts lifting heavier, because we talked about the lifting.
Oh, true. Right.
Is it going to give her the anabolic signal to get her hungrier, right? Yeah. One precedes the other, right? So lifting as well heavy, like a power lifter, is probably your best bulk sometime.
And you know what's funny is that I agree with that. And, you know, that makes sense too. Is so Camille's been lifting with me a lot more. And I've told you, you know, like some days I'm just like, what the fuck did you eat today? And she's like, I ate like a chocolate muffin and that was it. And I'm like, how do you survive? But whenever she lifts with me, she's like, dude, I'm like ravenous. Like I eat everything. And she's like, she made a joke and she was like, it's so funny how when I move my body, I actually need to eat food.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty true.
It just makes sense, right? Yeah. So, and I know for a fact that this person that I'm talking about, like is pretty adapted to the previous training program. So they just may not feel the need, you know, to eat or be appetized by anything. So I wonder, I'm excited to kind of move along in this program with them and see how it goes.
And then another thing is, a big deal is the mental hurdles of like when you start feeling stuffed and full, right? Yeah. Now, if it happens early on in the process, then we got to work through it a little bit more. But let's say it's been like a month or two and you actually got your calories up from like 1,500 to 2,000. You're just like, I'm stuffed. This is a perfect opportunity to do a mini cut to kind of reset yourself. So maybe instead of 2,000, now you're at like 1,800 for like a couple of weeks, a week or two, and then you jump right back into your bulk. Sometimes we want to like bulk for 6 months straight. Sometimes it's best to do 4 weeks, maybe take off a week, 4 weeks, 6 weeks.
I've been bulking for 28 years, bro.
It ain't working.
Cut gonna go crazy, man.
But these breaks give you a mental break, right? Two, it allows your body to resensitize to like protein, carbohydrates, and resensitize the body to food overall and absorb more. I think people just need to take those breaks. Yeah. The last thing is, don't get stuck on the scale, because sometimes you're going to gain 5 pounds. And you're like, oh my God, I gained 5 pounds. It's just water. Yeah. Yeah. Let's look at long-term metrics. This is why it's important to measure. Actually, it's good for Gabriel to measure his body percent fat stuff, just to like consistently see. If I was doing bioelectric impedance, I would have a device that where it could be a handheld or whatever, measure once a week, try to see if it's trending upward.
Just use the same shit over and over again.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, I don't care if you do skin folds, bioelectric impedance, it's just gotta be underwater weighing. You got to do it over and over and consistent. And we're looking at trends.
Right. Yeah. Because if I look at my trends, like if I look from this month to last month,
like trends, or are you taking trend?
Yeah. Like if I look from the last time I scanned, which was just a few days ago, to the month before, it would look like, oh, nothing really happened. But I looked back about 6 months to the beginning of this year, and I've had a consistent weight. My muscle mass has been consistent as well, gone up a little bit. My body fat percentage has been on a consistent downtrend. I think I started at like 26.5, and today I'm at 25 flat. And so it's been a slow process, right? But I'm tracking and I'm seeing that. And there are times you look at the graph and there's times where it goes up and it goes back down, and then goes up a little bit, and it goes back down. But if you look at that trend line is consistently straight negative, so it's just taking those data points.
And then also knowing who you are, right? So you like to track and do all those things. Some people may want to go based off the way their clothes feel, or, there's different things. And if we're going off of clothes feel, if you're talking about bulking, you want to feel most of it in your chest, your shoulders, and your arms where it's getting tighter. That's not
Jacked.
Cute at all.
Dude, my shirt almost ripped.
I think I need a new podcast partner.
I think I need a new shirt. That's what
I think you just took a shit in your pants.
I think I need new undies.
It kind of smells here, bro. But yeah, like if you're not a person who is a tracker, you got to know, and it's going to stress you out to track every little bit. I even talk about this with food. Track differently. Do more subjective things. It just may take you longer to get where you go. And every now and then, maybe we do track more exactly just to see it, But if it's going to stress you out, it's actually going to make you hold on to fat.
That's not good, right?
Mm-hmm. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about is from 1999 to today, caloric intake hasn't really gone up, but it seems like we're gaining weight more. So we're kind of consuming the same amount of calories they've done in studies over and over. And it seems like we're gaining weight. So some people think there's bigger issues, like at the molecular level, the way our gut's digesting food. Also, we got to realize
microplastics in my balls.
Yeah. Also, we got to think about, it used to be survival, right? So the best genes would get passed on. And now we have people with genes that are not the best to pass on. Let's be realistic and honest, right? So that's another effect. Also, our lifestyle is different. Even though we're consuming the same, we're not moving the same. So there's multiple factors, and I think
also I want to add in the quality of the food that we're consuming is different now too, right?
Yeah, true. Dang, just cut me off like that, you mother.
Sorry, said put it in.
Shut your mouth. But that gets me to this point where GLP-1s do pretty well, is hopefully help us beyond. A lot of people just see it as a weight loss supplement, but I'm also looking at it. It heals the gut, neuroinflammation, and there's other side effects to it, right? And this is where we're talking about dosage make the poison. Maybe a microdose of semaglutide, tirzepatide may help someone at molecular level. There's doctors who are like, we still don't know exactly what's going on, besides that it stops people from eating and suppressing their appetite. But we know there's like neuroinflammation, that it goes down. People can think clear and feel better. But again, dosage, we're still learning a lot. I think it's funny when we say this is good, this is bad. Everything's a tool.
Yeah.
I think that's where we got to head. Did you know, Nathaniel, that the word operational efficiency is on the rise and it's at highest peak ever?
Operational efficiency?
I don't know if I sent you this.
I don't think you did. Like as a term?
Yeah.
Okay.
So companies literally in their meetings, so these are in their meetings, someone since 2005 has tracked the word operational efficiency.
Yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
And anytime it's gone up really high, there's always a massive layoff following. And right now it's at its all-time high. So July, August may be massive layoffs.
Didn't Spotify just have like a huge layoff recently?
Yep.
That's crazy, man.
It's because of operational efficiency. We got to become more efficient with our operations.
It's ridiculous. What they mean is they want to make more money and pay people less.
It's operational efficiency.
Right. I'm sorry. You're right.
Come on, man.
That makes a lot of sense, man. I mean, I have a lot of clients who are like in the corporate world, and hearing things that they have to go through or in the hiring process and stuff. It sounds difficult, even from their end too, because they're not the CEO of the company, right? They still care about these people. They don't want things to happen to them, but things like this come down where, hey, we're going to go and lay off like 50% of the company, to increase operational efficiency, whatever it is. And it's like, then all these things happen and you're like, oh, I think those people actually did work,
That's usually what happens.
Yeah.
They cut a lot of people and then they bring back some of the positions.
Did you see, I sent you something a while back about, how all those McDonald's recently had gone through.
Oh, yeah.
They were all AI operated or they had machines putting the food out or whatever. And They actually had to bring people back in to work at McDonald's because a lot of the machines and computers and stuff were giving out super weird, fucked up stuff. Like, their 10-piece chicken nugget would come out with like 15 inside of it, or their milkshake would come out with like weird shit and stuff. And it was like inefficient. They were losing money because they're like wasting all this product and having to return it and then do all this shit. So I don't know. And like you said, it ends up happening, right? Where they get rid of 50% of people and then they're like, okay, let's bring back the 20 that were important, or hire different people or whatever it is. So I don't know.
Yeah. And the last thing before we go into studies, I want to talk about this video where this girl works out. I think you sent it.
I did send it. I did.
And she was like, these are the exercises that help my belly get flat. And in the description, she writes she was in a caloric deficit. And I was just thinking, like, this is why fitness is so hard, is like, and it would be so believable that these exercises helped her.
Yeah.
But what really helped her was being in a caloric deficit and probably the visceral fat going down, pulling in the core. Right. And it's just like, exercise does not make you leaner.
Yeah.
It allows you to build muscle.
That's a great way.
Right.
Yeah. Because I think that we still live by this sort of old idea that if I want to lose if I want to lose fat around my tummy, I got to do 1,000 sit-ups. Right. Or I still have clients, especially like older women coming in. They're like, I really want to lose my wing, and like, can we do a lot of tricep stuff? And I'm like, sure, I guess. But if you're trying to lose body fat percentage, that's not going to change anything. It might, again.
Also, you might want them to check their estrogen levels.
Right. Yeah. There's so many things, involved in this. And I think that we still have this concept that if you want to lose body fat around a certain area, you just do more exercises.
Like you could target it.
You could target exercises, right? I remember when targeting was like such a big thing. I mean, they still sell waist trainers and shit like that. And it doesn't exist. That's not a real concept. It doesn't happen. And so I'm glad that in the caption, she at least said that, because at least she wasn't just spouting a bunch of shit. Now, I will say that if you build more mass around the area, right, like we were talking about earlier, at a higher body percent fat, you might show more muscle.
And it'll look better.
And it'll look better, right?
So faster. Go back to that bat wing you were talking about.
Right.
Well, yeah, you could do more tricep exercises to fill it in with muscle. That'll help the look, and you don't have to be as lean.
Right.
But
the fat that is in the area still exists in the area, right? Unless you're in a caloric deficit, right, and you start losing body fat percentage.
All right, study number 1, high-fat diet may fuel anxiety. So new research shows when animals use a fat diet that's high and saturated for 9 weeks, their gut bacteria changes in ways that influence the brain chemicals and fuel anxiety.
In this study, I wonder if they fed them like just straight higher fat, like proteins or whatever it is, or was it like processed?
A little bit processed, but yeah, that's what they can do, right? But I think it's more simple than people think. If you're on a high fat diet, a lot of people don't realize carbohydrates actually relax the body. And if you're not in a relaxed state, it's going to create stress, right?
Yeah. And
because we're stressed, that's what's going to create anxiety, right? And so a lot of these people who are going on keto and stuff, they tend to still, unless they like have told their brain, oh, this is the best diet forever, tend to stress. I don't know if you've seen people on keto and they're like, I still feel like, this stress.
So I'm going to bring this up real quick. Same person that I was talking to earlier, when we were talking about diet, nutrition, how they eat, stuff like that. Their life seems to be high stress. There's just a lot of things going on. Everybody's kind of in that higher level, right? But they were telling me that a lot of the times they're just so worried about eating as much calories as they can that they'll just eat anything. So they go out to eat a lot, whatever. So they're eating a lot of processed foods. They're eating a lot of high fat foods and stuff like that. And so I'm betting, I'll bet money on it that that's increasing the level of stress, especially when your body is having to deal with all of these things. And they know, right? They were telling me like, I know it's super greasy. I know it's not the best to eat and stuff. But
and they're probably even stressing while they're telling you this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, you could even hear it in the voice, where it's just like frantic. And so doing the carbohydrates is a good tidbit there to add in. So I'll make sure that I do that in coaching.
Yeah, dude. I think a lot of times when we're in this high stress environment, we just think like, oh, I need to cut weight. But cutting weight is a stress on the body.
Right. Yeah.
And then on top of that, you're not giving it something to relax. And that's why a lot of these guys that are high carb people, they're like, oh, this is the best way to lose weight. For some people, it may help them because they're high stress individuals. I notice when I actually eat carbs in my diet, it's easier for me to lose weight and stuff like that. I remember I tried a high fat diet. I just got more stressed. I had more anxiety. When I drink my coffee, caffeine hits me faster because it sends that signal to stress the body a little bit, and I would have that anxiety. Where even if I'm in a calorie deficit, if I have too much caffeine, boom, my anxiety drives up.
Yeah.
All right. Second one, walking brings huge benefits to low back pain. Adults with a history of low back pain and reoccurrence of their back pain tend to feel better. That's what it comes down to in this whole study. And I think walking is just the most underrated exercise.
When I was working at the physical therapy clinic, we had this machine that it was called an unloader. And so what it was is this big sort of vest that you put on and strapped kind of around the waist and the torso and stuff. And you would increase this dial that would increase tension, and it would essentially pull the spine apart, right, into traction to where there was space in between the vertebrae and the disc. And then you'd walk on a treadmill, kind of hanging, almost suspended. And what it did is that as you walked, it created oscillation between the spine, right? The discs. It would increase blood flow, spinal fluid, things like that, promoting healing, right, through the area of the low back, especially if they had low back pain. And it was one of the things that people liked the most, right? It was like a symptomatic relief, really. And so you can do this too through walking on your own. You don't need to be through traction, right? It's low impact. You're creating that oscillation through the lower back. Do what you can, right? If 10 minutes of walking is, to the point where you're like, okay, I'm starting to feel my low back a little bit. Cool. Then maybe you do 10 minutes of walking, right? Yeah. It doesn't have to be a mile. It doesn't have to be any of those things. But I think walking, like you said, is probably one of the most underrated things that you could ever do.
All right. So before we go into the fitness questions, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe on Apple and Spotify, and you can rate and review us. Then also on YouTube, leave a comment down below. Tell me how amazing we are and how ridiculous we are sometimes. Then also smash that like button and smash the subscribe like that. Then you got a website, strengthsolutionspodcast.com. We have free blogs, free guides, and programs on there for purchase. Our email is strengthsolutionspodcast@gmail.com. Social media on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok is Strength Solutions Podcast. On Instagram, I'm Strength Solutions Edwin.
I'm Strength Solutions Nathaniel.
All right, we got our fitness questions. Are you ready for the first one?
Ready.
What is the best way to work out for longevity?
Man, whatever way you like.
Whatever you like. But also, I would tell people the best workout for the average individual is to do everything.
Yes.
Because you need mobility, you need strength, you need cardiovascular endurance, you need all these things. You don't have to be extreme. If we look at the extreme examples, they actually die pretty young because they're so extreme. You want to be average in everything.
You want to be like a jack of all trades,
Jack of all trades.
You want to be able to do everything. And the thing is, too, that even if you're working out for longevity, right, that's a goal, right? That is a goal. I think it's less quantifiable because you end up just going based off of what you feel. But I was actually having a conversation with a client today, and we were talking about goals, and they were like, I just feel like I just don't really have one right now, whatever. And I was like, isn't working out to be healthy and just consistently a goal? It doesn't that count too? It doesn't always have to be, I want to squat this much, or I want to be able to do this, or go back.
I want a six pack like the guy Taylor Gabriel,
right? Yeah. It's like, I can say, I just kind of want to work out for the rest of my life and get as strong as possible. Right. That's a fucking goal. That's good. And so you choose the way that you want to do it. You do a little bit of everything. If you're working out consistently, you're going to get stronger. You're going to build muscle. You're going to lose weight. You're going to change, like all those things are a side effect of you just moving.
Dude, it's that simple, right?
Simple.
Question number 2. I want to grow my shoulders physically, but also want to get stronger in my overhead press. Is this possible? I'm asking because I know there's a difference between training the movement and training the muscle. Dude, tell me what powerlifter is not big.
Yeah.
I think this is just a misnomer of like, you can't make your overhead press stronger. You can train that movement and then work on isolation and still build a strong back and shoulders.
You can do things like, even if you want to put a name to it, like power building.
Oh, right? Yeah. I remember they made that thing about power building. It looked like
Just
powerlifting early and then the isolation work afterwards.
Yeah. And
pretty much like how we write a program.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah. So you could do something like that, right? Like, okay, if it's your shoulder day or whatever, then yes, start your day off with a big barbell shoulder press, right? Try and do your 5 sets of 3 or whatever it is that you're going to do, and try and get that weight up and the strength. And then afterwards, hit 4 accessory movements, right? Do some rotational press, some cable lateral raises.
If you have a rear delt that's weak, upright rows. Right?
Yeah, yep. You want to do some face pulls, whatever it is, add that shit in. You can do both of those things. Now, I'll tell people a lot of times that whenever you're training for hypertrophy, right, if you're training for that muscle growth, you'll get a lot of muscle growth and you'll get a little bit of strength, right, in the same sense. In the same sense as doing strength training, you're going to get a lot of strength and a little bit of that muscle growth. They just go hand in hand.
They do. Yeah.
They go hand in hand. You can't get more strength without also getting a little bit of muscle growth, right? You can't get more muscle growth without gaining a little bit of strength. That's just the way that it goes. So I think that we have to stop thinking that like, oh, if I'm doing 8 to 12 reps and you're just training for size, you're never going to get stronger like that. Or if you're doing, 5 sets of 3, then you're just going to get strong. You're going to be small forever. Like, what the fuck? Who says that? That doesn't make any sense. So
yeah, dude. And another thing too, you might make your shoulders bigger because you're going to practice frequency, because you want to make your overhead press bigger and stronger, right? So you may just get bigger because you're practicing more frequently.
It's just volume.
Yeah. All right. Question number 3. What is more important, nutrition or exercise?
Ooh.
What do you think?
I mean, I guess it depends on what context we're talking about.
If I had to choose one, I would say exercise.
Yeah.
Because there's been obese people that are in a healthy state because of exercise, where there's people who have a great nutrition and they're also healthy, but also more likely to have no muscle because they don't move. And then over time, they become unhealthy.
I think the thing, too, that I tend to see.
But honestly, you need both, guys.
Honestly, you need both, right? I think one of the things, too, that I tend to see a lot of times with people who are like nutrition fanatics, right? Like people who are like, oh, I'm all about my nutrition, is that I think that they use it to sort of cover up other things. That they don't really need the muscle because they do this, or, oh, I don't need to be strong because I'm so healthy and I do this, or I do yoga all the time and stuff like that. And I feel like it becomes, they sort of like identify with it. And you identify stuff like that too with exercise, right? People do the same thing. We're like, oh, I'm fucking CrossFit and blah, blah, blah.
So I think the better answer is, this is what the better answer is. We wouldn't choose, right? Is to look at exercise as a way to build muscle, to build function of movement, to build stability, to allow you to build cardiovascular endurance, and look at nutrition as the supply to help you with those things. Also, if you need to lose weight, you could go in a deficit. If you need to gain a little bit of muscle, you could go in a surplus and regulate how your body feels through nutrition. And also, nutrition can actually affect, like, see, if you have epilepsy, you want to do like keto diet, or like we were talking earlier, maybe you need a little bit more fiber to help with the cholesterol. Overall, that's where nutrition will play a better role than exercise, right? Yeah. You need both. I hate when people put either or, which one's better, which one's not, because you need, everything feeds into each other. Just like sleep would be added to this, and setting up your social day of having friends and family to live long, right?
It's too hard to choose one, because as I'm thinking of stuff that would defend exercise, then I'm thinking of stuff that would defend nutrition. Yeah. Right. And so it's just this back and forth, and you definitely need both. I maybe one of these is easier for you to do than the other. For me,
start there.
Yeah, and choose that one, and then start with the other.
Probably later. Both of us exercise, right?
For sure.
damn cookies.
Yeah, aren't you going to Chopsticks later? You going to the buffet? Ooh, yummy. Need so much Jello.
0 calories. My friend said it was okay.
That's made from bone marrow, bro. It's good for you.
Yeah, it's all good. Give me that bone. All right, last question. I want to be my healthiest version. What training should I do? So what training modality? I think we kind of answered that earlier, and it's everything, right? You want to do functional patterns. You want to do powerlifting. You want to do bodybuilding. You want to do kettlebells. You want to do Indian club. You want to do power work. You want to do recovery things, and it's more based off what you need at the time as an individual.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect thing to say. a lot of my clients who I have now are like previous athletes and stuff like that. And I think they identify with that a lot.
Oh, that's going to be rough.
Yeah, they identify with it a lot because they don't really know how to not identify with it. If I was an athlete for the first 20 years of my life, it's kind of a big part of my life. You know, it's a big part of my thought process. It's a large part of that. So they're constantly kind of training for that or with that in mind. And you have to realize that
they're trying to be their old versions of themselves.
Right. And I try to kind of coach them in a way where I'm like, you're at a different point in your life now. Your moms, your dads, you have jobs. Life is more stressful. You change. So I think that you're saying what you said is perfect, is that you want to train for your health at the moment, at the time. Right. Maybe there is a time where you can go back into your sport a little bit more and do that. Maybe there's times where your kids are doing 8 different sports and you got to just focus on what you can do at the moment, right?
It might be just mobility and walking.
Yeah, yeah. Or you might, run on the treadmill for 30 minutes in the morning and that's all you can do. But you just got to train for your current state in life, really, as opposed to your idea of what you should be.
Got to be in the present. All right, guys, if you like what we're doing, please check us out on Apple and Spotify, rate and review us. Please subscribe there as well. Then on YouTube, you can leave a comment down below and smash that like button and subscribe button. Then our website is strengthsolutionspodcast.com. Email strengthsolutionspodcast@gmail.com. Social media, Strength Solutions Podcast across TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. On Instagram, I'm Strength Solutions Edwin.
I'm Strength Solutions Nathaniel.
Until next time, guys, what? Do the dirty!